applies. The ordinance shall apply to all special flood hazard areas within the jurisdiction of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Section 5. Methods of reducing flood losses. This ordinance uses the following methods to accomplish the stated purpose. A. This ordinance restricts or prohibits structures or uses in special flood hazard areas that adversely impact health, safety, or property during flooding events. B. This ordinance requires protection against flood damage for structures or uses vulnerable to floods at the time of initial construction or after substantial improvements of the structure or after substantial damage has occurred. C. This ordinance controls the alteration of natural floodplains, stream channels, and natural protective barriers which are involved in the accommodation and transport of flood waters. D. This ordinance controls floodplain development, structural development, placement of manufactured structures, clearing, grading, mining, drilling, dredging, placement of fill, excavating, water course alteration, drainage improvements, road or bridge construction, individual water or sewer installations, and other activities which may increase flood damage by increasing flood elevations, floodwater velocities, or flood discharge patterns. E. This ordinance regulates the construction of flood barriers which unnaturally divert floodwaters or which may adversely impact other lands. Section 6. Flood Damage Prevention Code adopted by reference. There is hereby adopted by reference a, quote, Flood Damage Prevention Code for Eureka Springs, Arkansas, end quote, dated October 22, 2010. The code shall include Article 1 definitions, Article 2 administration, Article 3 provisions for flood hazard reduction. A copy of the reference code shall be filed in the office of the city clerk and shall be available for inspection and copying by any person during normal office hours. Section 7, abrogation and greater restrictions. This ordinance does not repeal, abrogate, or impair any existing easements, covenants, or deed restrictions. Whenever there is a conflict or overlap between this ordinance and another ordinance, easement, covenant, or deed restriction, the instrument with the more stringent restrictions applies. Section 8, interpretation. In the interpretation and application of this ordinance, all provisions must A, be considered as minimum requirements, B, be liberally construed in favor of the governing body, and C, be deemed to neither limit nor repeal any other powers granted under state statutes. Section 9, warning and disclaimer of liability. The degree of flood protection required by this ordinance is considered reasonable for regulatory purposes. Documented scientific and engineering data form the basis for these requirements. On rare occasions, flooding events greater than those considered for this ordinance will occur. In addition, flood heights may increase over time due to man-made or natural causes. This ordinance does not imply that land outside special flood hazard areas will be free from flooding, nor that strict adherence to this ordinance protects uses permitted within the special flood hazard areas from all flood damages. This ordinance specifically does not create liability on the part of the community, nor any official or employee of the community, for any flood damages that result while strictly following this ordinance or from any lawful administrative decision made under the provisions of this ordinance. Section 10, compliance. Constructing, locating, substantially altering, or changing the use of any structure or land after the effective date of this ordinance requires full compliance with the provisions of this ordinance and all other applicable regulations. Section 11, penalty for noncompliance. Flood hazards are reduced by compliance with the provisions of this code. Accordingly, enforcement of this ordinance discourages noncompliance and is a recognized mechanism for flood hazard reduction. A, the floodplain administrator must enforce the provisions of this ordinance and is authorized to do so. B, issue cease and desist orders on non-compliant floodplain development projects. C, issue citations for non-compliance. D, request that FEMA file a 1316 action denial of flood insurance against non-compliant properties. And E, take any other lawful action necessary to prevent or remedy any instance of noncompliance with the provisions of this ordinance. 1, it is a misdemeanor to violate or fail to comply with any provision of this ordinance. 2, any person found in a court of competent jurisdiction guilty of violating this ordinance is subject to fines of not more than $500 per day for each violation. In addition, the defendant is subject to payment of all associated court costs and costs involved in the case. And there is not a section 11. Oh, yes. And severability. In any court of competent jurisdiction, if any court of competent jurisdiction finds that any section, clause, sentence, or phrase of this ordinance is invalid or unconstitutional, that finding in no way affects the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance.
Okay. You've heard the ordinance as it's been read. Motion to Mr. DeVito.
I move to approve ordinance number 2133 on its first reading.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve it on first reading. All in favor, say aye.
Discussion?
Okay, go ahead. Discuss.
I would move to amend that section 11A be completed.
Okay. Do you know what that's supposed to say?
I just finished the sentence because it actually...
That was a motion. We probably need a second.
Yeah. But we got to know what to second it for, what to amend it to.
As it is written, it says the floodplain administrator must enforce the provisions of this ordinance and is authorized to.
B, issue cease and
B
desist.
is like a...
That would not be a proper following paragraph. Should be either one
Subsections,
or a
perhaps?
small a or
Yeah, there should be a small A. Dwayne, do you know how this was actually written?
See, okay,
'Cause
that's interesting.
it came from you. I have to ask you.
Mr. Mayor, has
Yes.
the city attorney seen this?
No, I have not yet.
May we ask his opinion?
Yes, you may.
Which page are you on?
On page 4, section 11, A is an incomplete
ends with-
sentence.
ends with two.
Incomplete sentence.
Does appear that some words are missing. I don't
Indeed.
believe it would be correct to go strictly to B from there.
Pardon?
Strict English reading of it would not give you a complete sentence by going straight to B from A. So there do appear to either be words missing or extra words in that sentence, one of the two.
Yes, ma'am.
Perhaps we could have A and at 2, and B could be subsection 1, C could be subsection 2, D could be subsection 3, E could be subsection 4. Then this one subsection could be B.
I would
Number
suggest
2 subsection could be C, perhaps.
I would suggest that you pass it as it is, since you're only going to pass 1 or 2 readings tonight, and that Mr. Allen be directed to look at the originating material to see what the intent is there. Because if you try to rework it yourself, you're probably going to lose the intent of what I assume came down from above.
yeah, we have to meet certain guidelines. Yes.
So I would suggest, unless you intend to pass it all 3 readings tonight, that you simply leave it as it is until you can correctly amend it at a future meeting.
Then I'll withdraw my motion. And do I need a motion to request that you direct Mr. Allen to address
Do we have
this?
another motion on the table?
Yeah, we already know the motion already. We'll take care of that. You don't need to put that in the motion. All right, the motion's been made and seconded. It's been read. I guess we need to vote on it now. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I'll entertain the motion to read by ballot title only. Or title only?
To suspend the rules and read ordinance number 2133 by title only.
Motion been made. Need a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded, read by title only, 2133.
That requires a roll call vote.
Okay. Go ahead and do a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Alexander?
Excuse me? What motion? I'm sorry.
We're voting on
For the
title-
first
the
read?
reading for the title only.
Yes.
Mr. Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Pownell?
No.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Balance?
No.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Carried 4-2. If you'll read it by ballot, title only. When you get caught up.
Ordinance 2133, be it enacted by the City Council, so it's this portion, yes?
Yes, just the top.
Okay, be it enacted by the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance providing for the establishment of a floodplain flood damage prevention program for Eureka Springs and other purposes.
All right.
Move to approve ordinance number 2133 on its second reading.
Mr. DeVito moved to approve on second reading. Need a second?
Second.
Mr. Berry seconded. Need a roll call on this one or just a voice vote?
Just a voice vote.
All in favor? Yes, Mr. Berry.
Can't do discussion here. Yeah, I agree. I wish this had gone to the planning commission, but I also understand that this is an important document that if we don't pass it, we will be jeopardizing people who have insurance
Mhm.
in that area. We don't have a large area, but we do have an area that is in the floodplain.
One's too many.
And there's too many, we have houses down there in the floodplain.
We do.
As it is. So this is an important document. And as mentioned, and I'm sure we'll get Public Works Director to look at the ordinance and to fill in and make sure, possibly get him with the city attorney later on to get us a final review for our next meeting.
Any other discussion? Mr.
It
Pownell?
would also been nice to have the map that it refers to in here so we'd know what we're approving.
We'll see if we can get that for you. You'll have it by next meeting. All right, motion been made and seconded. Discussion's over with. Call for the vote. This need to be a roll call or a voice vote?
Maybe voice vote.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. Motion carried.
I move to recess for 10 minutes.
Second.
Do we want to recess or keep going? We've only got 3 more items.
I move to recess for 10 minutes.
All in favor of the recess?
Aye.
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 Recess for 10. Be back in 10.